January 6th was a disgrace. American citizens attacked their own government. They used terrorism to try to stop a specific piece of domestic business they did not like. Fellow Americans beat and bloodied our own police. They stormed the Senate floor. They tried to hunt down the Speaker of the House. They built a gallows and chanted about murdering the Vice President. They did this because they'd been fed wild falsehoods by the most powerful man on earth. Because he was angry he'd lost an election. Former President Trump's actions preceded the riot were a disgraceful dereliction of duty.
Therefore, I am endorsing Donald J. Trump. You know, the one thing we cut off there, and maybe it's not fair to Mitch, is that at the end of it, right after that, he broke into a rousing tune, had a band on it. Happy Days Are Here Again. Mm-hmm. It was like the 32 convention. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it. But yeah. Also, a little discordant, you know. Song didn't go with the message, but, you know, that's Mitch.
Mitch McConnell there, that was in 2021. That was about a month after January 6th, blaming Donald Trump for the insurrection, the attack on the Capitol squarely. Yesterday, Mitch McConnell endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Who saw that coming?
We also should add in that Donald Trump has relentlessly attacked in a racist way Mitch McConnell's wife. But he says, you know what? I have said for a long time that I will endorse whoever the nominee is, even if it's the guy I blame for an attempted coup against the United States government.
Exactly. You know, here's the thing, okay? We say a lot of bad things sometimes about Ted Cruz here. But let me once say, there is a difference between Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz.
All right.
If Donald Trump had ever attacked Ted Cruz's wife, ever called her ugly, ever struck out at her in the most personal of terms, that is Texas tough right there.
He's a real man. Yeah.
That's a line.
No BS.
You can't cross that.
Cross that line with Ted. No. You know what? You might as well have crossed the Rio Grande, my friend.
On the way to Cancun?
Yeah, that would not have watched.
You can't look. If
you
call Senator Cruz's wife ugly or suggest that Senator Cruz's father assassinated JFK,
yes,
he won't support you at least for a few months. He won't do it.
At least not at the convention.
No, he'll vote your conscience at the convention and then a few months later do a phone bank for Donald Trump and leading to.
Well, I guess Lindsey Graham is
another. Yeah.
There's a guy though, if he would. I mean, that guy.
Profile and courage.
Mr. Spine.
Go on the floor.
Enough is enough. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. And then three rednecks and a hound dog chasing him around Reagan National, and he's like, I'm in.
It's not like somebody doxed him and put his cell phone up.
Yeah, it's not like Trump put his cell phone up there.
I think we need a compilation. It might start with Chris Christie in the McDonald's episode.
On McConnell, though, I will say the two moments that led to Donald Trump's comeback post-January 6th. One is House Speaker McCarthy, he was wanting to be Speaker McCarthy, heading to Mar-a-Lago and posing for a photo, beginning that rehabilitation tour. The other is McConnell choosing not to try to convict Trump in that second trial. First of all, pushing it until after the inauguration, having it in February, believing things would cool off, voting to acquit himself. And had he voted to convict and whipped others to do so, Trump wouldn't have been able to run for office again. McConnell chose not to do that. Here we have. That opened the door for the Trump.
Well, I will say there are a lot of things that Mitch did that we saluted on this show. And he stood up. He stood up to Trump at very important times. And yet, at the end, if you want to take this endorsement at the end of his career, basically, or if you want to take what happened at the end of that process, where there really was a question, could Mitch McConnell have gotten enough Republicans to convict Donald Trump in that impeachment proceeding? He made the call, we'll let the courts play it out. Yeah. And we see more of where that's led us, George.
Yeah.
I mean, part of being in leadership is showing some leadership and at least attempting to do what you think is right. I mean, we all have political minds. We talk a lot about strategy, but there's also just such a thing as right and wrong. And at the end of the day, it sounds like a lot of people have forgotten why you go to Washington. It's supposed to be to serve Americans. It's supposed to be a public servant. And this just looks like it's about power. It's shameless. And Americans understand that. They see that that's part of why so many voters are deeply demoralized and cynical about this process at this point.
And it's shameless, but it's also bizarre. I mean, here's a man. How old is Mitch McConnell?
Old enough that it doesn't matter.
Old enough
like
that exactly.
I'm old enough that it doesn't matter.
That's right. I mean, why not go out and just say what you think? And he did say what he thought on that for that brief shining moment on February 13, 2021, where he said not only the stuff that we just saw on tape. He said there's a criminal law in this country. He was endorsing Jack Smith before Jack Smith was even appointed. He was saying that the man was a criminal, that he did cause these people to engage in violence on the Hill, and that one of the remedies could be criminal prosecution. And so where is he today? And it's for what? He's done.
Well, for what? And I'm sorry, I'm just going to ask. And I say this of Cruz, I say it of Lindsey, I say it of all of them, I say it of just all the people Trump insulted. What man? I ask that as a man, I'd say, or woman. But as a man, I said, what man would put up with that? I had a very powerful Republican slander a friend of mine. 20 years later, he pulls me aside before his speech and begs me to stop. And he says, Jesus Christ, Joe, it's been 20 years. It's been 20 years. So you shouldn't have said that about my friend. It's going to be 20 more years. I mean, that's what we would all do. Well, except for my friends.
But even...
No, but hold on, except for my friends. When Donald Trump said I was a murderer and I should be executed, a lot of them voted for Donald Trump. But the rest of us here... But that even raises a question, Willie. What is it about Donald Trump?
It's his brilliance.
People can insult someone's wife or husband. In Mitch McConnell's case, continue racist slurs against his wife. And they're just fine with it. I'm not even looking at Donald Trump there. I'm looking at these people. I'm looking at my former friends. They're like, oh yeah, he called you a murderer, but I'm voting for him anyway. Regulations. You know they're going to be down on Trump. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, you and I have talked about this on and off the air. What are those looks in the mirror like in the morning or at night for Lindsey Graham or for Ted Cruz or any of those guys? If you have any personal pride, not talking about politics here, if you have any personal pride, how do you do it? How do you swallow all that down and then go out and support the guy who's attacked you relentlessly? I mean, he attacks Lindsey Graham in his home state during the primary. The crowd's booing Lindsey Graham while Lindsey stands there and he mocks them, takes them for their support for granted, and he should, because there's nothing he could do to them that they wouldn't fall in line anyway. But it's again, not politics. It's as a person who has personal pride. How do you do it? I don't know.
Lindsey's first words are, hey, y'all. My first two words, if somebody did that to me, would be markedly different. And I don't think I'm outside of the norm here, Lemire. Again, this is so bizarre. I want to underline again, Mitch McConnell insulted repeatedly, said this guy tried to basically destroy American democracy, has watched his wife attacked with racist screeds repeatedly. And he said, I endorse Donald Trump.
It's so deeply cynical, and it's based all out of fear of Trump. And McConnell, of all people, who has announced he's stepping down from leadership, he's not going to run again. He would seem to be a person who doesn't have to do this. And yes, he does want Republicans to have a majority in the Senate again, even if he's not going to be the leader there.
Trump took that from him.
Of course he did.
Twice.
Yes, twice.
He would have been Senate majority leader over the past 4 years, except for one person. And one person alone.
The two men have not spoken in years, and yet McConnell still backs us. And he defended it by saying yesterday that, well, in February 2021, just days after that speech, I said I would back whoever the Republican nominee was. And that, of course, became because he's putting party before country. That's what he's doing. And party before personal pride, too.
But, George, that's an old custom that I understand when it's George H.W. Bush or Ronald Reagan or John McCain or pick your Mitt Romney, whoever it is, you
Bob
fall
Dole or George H.W. Bush.
Right, but you've said
stakes not that high.
You said this is a man who may face criminal prosecution because he led an attempted coup against the government. So maybe you could change the tradition just for this one case.
Yeah, and it's not just doing it for the country. If he only cared about the Republican Party, he would have spoken out and said we've got to get rid of Trump long ago. Even if he wanted to sacrifice himself just for his party, why not do that?